In today's presentation, I'm going to be talking about the power of goals, which is heavily featured in my latest book, and the importance of values. So for those of you who know me, I'm always talking about values. And to really hone it down, values are effectively what are important to you. And there are ways you can really understand your values when you actually do some sort of analysis in your life. So today I'm going to focus on my journey today. It may seem a little bit selfish, but you'll see what flavor I'm getting with. 2, I'll also talk about my journey. 3, I'll talk about the lessons learned. Number 4, I'll talk about some steps you can take, and then I'll summarize everything as well. So who am I? Again, Pearl did a fantastic job in introducing me. So I've worked in the NHS for the past 10 years. Yes, 10 years. This is still a baby face. I'm still under 30. And I'm currently a senior implementation manager for NHSX. And effectively, they're the digital arm to the NHS. So we implement digital solutions into hospitals, GPs, different practices to make them more efficient and allow us to actually see our healthcare information as well. So if you've heard of the NHS app, our team is responsible for that and many other stuff that you may have in your phone. I'm also a registered coach and mentor, not only just with the NHS, but accredited under the Institute of Leadership and Management, the European Mentoring Coaching Council, and the International Coaching Federation. And recently I got my accreditation to basically show I'm a coach practitioner, to show that I've done consolidated professional 84 hours in coaching. So I love coaching, I love psychology, I love really enabling individuals to effectively position themselves for success. I'm also a graduate action learning set facilitator. So what that means is that for those people going into the graduate scheme, into the NHS, I help them overcome different challenges and barriers in order for them to be more effective as a leader in the NHS. Okay, so it's basically getting the group to coach each other. And I'm also a 360 leadership facilitator, which essentially means if you've done an assessment, a 360 report, I can help you understand what it means and then interpret that into actions so you can go out there and be even more awesome. As stated before, I'm a speaker, so I focus on stuff such as achievement, behavior, and mindset management, and I'm the author of 4 books, all self-published. Now, this is my journey, okay? It looks like a really short journey, but I'll talk about each thing step by step. Now, at the beginning, I would say probably at the age of 14, I wanted to be an architect, okay? And my late grandma said to me, "You're going to be an architect." And I said, okay. I just accepted it. And, you know, along that sort of side of things, I was very good at sport, okay? I was your runner, your long jumper, your rugby player, your karate person. I did things to at least a county level in all of those different things. So in my head, people thought I was going to be running in 2012 Olympics. So I'll give you an idea. At 11, 12 years old, I was running 11.5 seconds. That's how fast I was. I can't do that now. I'll probably pull a muscle. So things have changed. And so for me, being a doctor, I wanted to, first of all, I wanted to be an architect. So I did work experience and I realized it wasn't for me. It was boring. So sorry for those who are architects. It wasn't my cup of tea. So then I started to be ushered into the idea of being a doctor. And it was my mother and father who suggested it initially. And being a stubborn little kid, I rebelled against it a little bit. But 2 weeks later, I was like, actually, what they're saying makes sense. Because of 4 main things. Number 1, I wanted to make money. I'm not even going to lie about that. Number 2, I wanted prestige. Number 3, I wanted to work with people. But number 4, I wanted to make sure I utilized my talents when it came to the sciences. And so I embarked on a 10-year journey to really trying to get into medicine. And I'm not going to lie to you, it wasn't easy. Because throughout those 10 years, I was doing a 9 to 5 and a 5 to 11 in St. George's, really trying to make sure that I get to a point where I could become the doctor I wanted to be. Because I didn't get fantastic grades at university when I did medical biochemistry, I had to go through something known as the GAMSAT. And so that required you to do a 6-hour exam in order for you to be effective and pass and become a doctor and do all these other things. As I was doing this stuff, life was telling me, Michael, do you truly want to be a doctor? Is this your calling? Is this something that has been bestowed upon me because of what I think it looks like? Or is it something that is connected to my real core values? And as time went on, I realized that medicine wasn't necessarily for me. So all those people calling me doctor at church had to come to some real realization. I'm telling you, everybody called me Dr. Michael, Dr. Tabirade. That was my name, okay? But I had to break it to them softly. I had to break it to my mother first. And I was quite honestly like to her, Mum, I know I said I wanted to do medicine and everything else, but I realized this is not for me. And that was a big step for me, because once you are honest to yourself, you can be honest to other people. And there is a freedom that allows you to do other things. That's how you create success. So think about that. So when I realized that medicine wasn't for me, I started to realize I was starting to make my way into the NHS in terms of the management side of things. So at the age of 22, 23, I became a project manager, earning about £40,000. I was gassed, there's like a lot of money at a young age. And I was like, wow, I'm making some serious money. And I met this person who was like, have you read this book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki? And I said, no. So she explained it to me and I thought, wow, this sounds amazing. And so I read the book over the weekend, over 2 days. And I went back to her and I said, I've actually read that book. I finished it. She's like, what, you finished it? I was like, yeah. She's like, I haven't even finished it yet. And so that showed my relentlessness. That showed my hunger to really strive and reach some heights that I don't think I was necessarily prepared for. So from that day, I went down a 2 or 3 year journey of entrepreneurship. I invested so much money into mentorship, property investing, trading, understanding how to write books, understanding how to speak. All these different things helped shape my understanding and knowledge that I had today. But what I realized is that those things lacked substance for 2 reasons. A lot of what these people were preaching was good in terms of information, but it lacked context. And I wasn't necessarily aligned to these things as well. I was trying to change my family tree, but it wasn't just about changing my family tree. It was about being true to myself. And trust me, it hit me hard, because as you can see in point 4, I got myself into huge debt, tens of thousands of pounds. And that humbled me. I'm telling you. I remember back in 2015 when my contract ended as a project manager and they were going to renew my contract. I went to the hospital and they told me that I had a cyst in my right shoulder. Okay, a cyst was growing in my shoulder. And the doctor said to me, what do you want to do with it? And I thought, remove it, obviously. God's on my side, so I know nothing's going to happen to me. And so they removed it and it took 6 months for it to heal. And even with my stubborn self, I was still trying to do things. I was even part of a network marketing company that was selling all these different stuff, selling great goods and, magic bottles and stuff. But God humbled me and said to me, Mike, you better sit down because you can't conquer the world. And I was like, yes, I can. He was like, no, you can't. You better sit down. And so I gradually learned that I needed to be still. I needed to be still and listen to what God was telling me. And I realized that there were some values that were starting to trickle. So the first value that came to mind was security and foundation. I needed to make sure. So as Daryl was saying before, and as Vimbai was saying before, your needs and your foundational purpose is so key, but I needed to get the foundation sorted. And so in my mind, I was like, I don't like any of this stuff. I was close to closing a deal in Liverpool in terms of properties, but because of this injury, because of these reflections, I decided not to do anything. And so with one of my last training sessions that I invested in, it was a speaking training session. And the guy said to me, you can make money from intellectual property. You can make money from your ideas. So in English, you could make money from teaching people what you have learned throughout your journey. And I thought, wow, that is amazing. That really excited me because it meant control for me. It meant the opportunity to be myself and remove myself from shackles that were burdening me down. And so near the end of 2015, I went to a Les Brown event. If you don't know Les Brown, you need to check him out because that guy is my godfather. I'm telling you, we share the same birthday, we share the same essence. So I'm just like, that guy does things for me. And so with that in mind, I paid for a VIP ticket and he said to me, Michael, he was trying to imitate my voice. He was like, Michael, you have such a great voice. And I'm telling you, I could have collapsed on sight. I was amazed because this guy invoked some sort of invigoration and energy into me that made me feel so alive and excited. So what did I do? Michael takes action. He started a YouTube channel that day. And it wasn't because I was trying to get views or anything else. It was because I was trying to practice my speaking. And so there's 2 things out of that. Number 1, if a mentor or somebody experienced in your journey is able to give you some sort of words of encouragement, that could go a long way. So people in your life that are experienced are so important and so key, especially for those of you in a younger generation. The second thing is, don't be afraid to take action. You don't have to be perfect to take action. You just need to take action. And so there are two things that I like to say with that. Mass imperfect action is so key. Let me say that again. Mass imperfect action is key. Because if you take mass imperfect action, you get data points. And with those different data points, you start to understand what life is telling you. You start to understand you need to go this way, you need to go that way, you need to avoid this, you need to avoid that. So that's what I learned very early on. And so when I started to do these speaking videos on YouTube, I started to post it on Facebook. And in 2016, I remember in January, I got my first speaking engagement. And it was to a charity. I think it was a Ugandan charity. And I was talking to them about purpose, planning, and positioning. And so I started to get a flurry of different speaking engagements that really got me confident about being the person I was called to be. People asking me for mentorship, people asking me for coaching. I had no idea. I read loads of books, and by then I probably read about 100 plus books. And to date, I've read just under 300 books. But back then, all of my knowledge just came from information as opposed to the practice. So I was kind of doing a bit of imposter syndrome, but was getting results for them at the same time. So I started to focus on my personal brand. And I loved being in this space because people were like, oh, you're the motivational speaker. I didn't know if I was a motivational speaker, but I knew I could position people for success with the right level of practical strategies and systems. But there was something missing. Remember at the beginning, I spoke about how I wanted money as one of those things where I could become a doctor. Yeah, I was thinking about money. That started to tick again. I got into huge debt because I was thinking about money. So this popped up again. I was like, my stuff is not catching the way I want it to catch. So I need to be focusing on maybe business. I started to see all these gurus like the Gary V's, the Grant Cardones, the Ty Lopez's, all these different people. So I started to do that kind of stuff. And I realized the rationale for doing that was because I started to learn about email marketing, social media, website content creation, all of these different funnel creating sort of habits that helps you be more effective as a business owner. And so I started to do events here and there, but I realized again, even though people loved my content, it wasn't catching the same way. I even paid a lot of money to be at an expo. And you can see this on YouTube. I'll probably send this via the chat at some point, where the information is sound and I'm really good in giving good stuff in front of thousands of people, but the same portion, it didn't connect the same way. It was coming back to that connection and authenticity, as I was stating before. So I remember a couple of years ago, I realized that, you know what? I need to stop everything. I just cancelled everything. And for a good 4 or 5 months, I decided to be in some serious isolation and solitude. I remember my sister thought there was something wrong with me. My girlfriend thought there was something wrong with me. My friends thought there was something wrong with me. My mum was concerned. Like, you know, them ones where they're concerned and they're throwing out Bible verses and praying for you in different ways. Like, there was nothing wrong with me. I just made a decision to not do anything. I don't want to look at another Gary Vee video or Ty Lopez video or Grant Cardone video saying you need to do content. I just wanted to be. Okay, so for those of you who understand what this is, in psychology, this is known as an existential crisis. And what happens is, if you look at the graph, I was doing a lot of doing, but not doing a lot of being. In other words, I didn't really understand self. I didn't really understand what God had inherited into me. And so the way I came out of this was that I focused on making sure that I did things that I felt like doing. It was based on my mood, if I'm honest with you. So if I wanted to watch Netflix, I'll do that. If I want to hang out with friends, I would do that. And so slowly, I started to come down to a conclusion. One thing that was important to me was authenticity. Let me break that down. What that really means is being honest to myself. If you've ever thought about it, any barriers that you've come across is because you haven't been honest to yourself. Let's be real. If you're honest to yourself right now about your financial situation, about your romantic situation, about your religious situation, about your career situation, all of these things, if you're honest, you would make strides. And that's where success starts, from your honesty, okay? And that's where you can be more honest to other people. So I discovered my true authentic self. So these are some of the lessons I started to learn, okay? And what I want to add to that is that this is when my coaching business started to just scale up, because I started to do coaching training. I started to get accredited. I started to get the qualifications. I was building a good roster of portfolio. I started to get 100 plus hours of coaching as well. It all was turning into something that was great. Now, obviously, I'm not doing that full time. I'm a senior implementation manager. But what I love about this is that I'm registered on the NHS as well. So I'm not only doing it in work, I'm doing it outside of, it's my life, it's my being. And so it's important to stay true to yourself. So the first lesson, it's easier to be yourself than to imitate somebody else. Can you see that smile back there? I'm looking happy with the shades on. You know, I'm in some nice hotel. It's because I'm being myself with that lollipop gang. So what I need to say to you is that when you start focusing on somebody else, when you start imitating another character, you will never win. You will never win. I'm telling you that right now. You need to connect to your authentic and honest self. Really sit down and think to yourself, why are things not working for me? What are some of the barriers and challenges that are getting in my way? Because once you understand the essence of those barriers, you realize that you weren't being honest to yourself. So commit to honesty. It's such a difficult thing to do in this day and age, especially in the rise of social media. I've gone to a stage where I've muted my feed. So I can only see things on the computer when it comes to social media. I've muted my feed. I've deleted the apps. The only app I have on there is Instagram for when I do my lives. But that's even muted because I'm making sure my well-being is ticking because I want to be myself. I don't want to be like, I want to be like that person because they got this, that, and that. No, I haven't got time. I'm Michael Tabirade, you know. I'm not Les Brown. I'm not Gary Vee. I'm Michael Tabirade. So focus on being yourself. Number 2, master crawling before you can walk. You see that whole presentation that Daryl gave, that whole presentation that Vimbai gave, is focusing on the foundations. I was trying to run, we're trying to do all this entrepreneurship because I wanted to change my family tree because I understood my situation. I wanted to overcome, but I didn't get the roots sorted out first. So what am I saying to you? It's not always about starting a business just right now. It's not about, being this person or that person. For me, I realized I needed to solidify myself within the NHS. That was something that was grounded and something that I understood. And now I'm a senior manager in the NHS. Effortless. Okay, it wasn't effortless, I'm not going to lie. It was difficult. But the point being made is that I focused on what was important. Because of the first one, I was honest. Does that make sense? Get the foundations, do the tiers, as Maslow has stated, as Daryl has stated, as Vimbai stated, in being on purpose. So make sure you crawl before you can walk. The third thing is there is power in managing your emotions. If you really want to read up about this stuff, there's this book called Emotional Intelligence by Daniel Goleman, I believe, or Coleman. He basically invented emotional intelligence. It's a really dry book, but there's a better book called Chimp Paradox by Dr. Stephen Peters, okay? And what he basically says is that our brain is made up of 3 main parts, and he's paraphrasing, obviously. You got the chimp, which is basically the emotional center, that's signified by the amygdala. Then you've also got the human, which is very rational, okay? And so the human can control the chimp, but the chimp is 5 times more powerful than the human. And the chimp is not even aware of itself. And you also have the computer, which processes the information between the chimp and the human, but is also not aware of itself. And again, the human represents the prefrontal cortex, for those of you who are science heads. And so it's important to understand that as much as it's important for us to express ourselves, you also need to make sure you put your emotions in check. How do you do that? With goals. You think I wrote The Power of Goals for banter? I didn't write this for banter, You have to live with intention. And the way you live with intention is to make sure that you channel and funnel your emotions. Once you understand how to channel and funnel your emotions, then you'll know how to harness power. That's how it works. People plan and people channel and understand their perspectives in order to be more effective. The fourth thing is deep-rooted faith is the secret weapon. I'm not even trying to go to compete with Vimbai. She took us to church. Let's be real, okay? But what I want to say here is that faith is so key here. I'm a believer in God, so my faith is in God. And I believe that if I believe in God, I can believe in myself. There's no need to have low self-esteem. There's no need to have a lack of confidence. Yes, I'm human and those things will come back and forth. But when you have faith, when you can see something that you can't physically see, that's when you win. If you don't have faith, you will never ever win. It's not possible. It's impossible. I can tell you that right now. It was William Blake who once said, everything that you can see was once imagined. Even you. Can you think about that? I don't want to get into the details of the you part, but the point I'm making is that everything that you see around you was once imagined. But that took faith. And so you have to believe that there is more than your current situation. And so there's a guy called Eckhart Tolle who wrote a book called, I think it's The Power of Now. And he basically states that the past and the future does not exist, but only in the figment of your imagination. And I believe it. Also, Einstein believes this as well. What this really means is that if you're talking about the future, you're talking about the now. Because even if you were to time travel to the future, that's still your present moment. So you have to understand your future is in the now. Learn to be present and learn to be in the moment. The fifth thing is that wealth is not made by accident. Are you crazy? You think Jeff Bezos, who owns Amazon, did that by accident? He got a £250,000 loan from his parents initially. So you have to understand this is not made by accident. There are certain design principles that make you wealthy, okay? Now I want to break this down. When it comes to your budgeting, do you have a separate account for your expenses, to your bills? Do you have a savings account? Are you saving for something particular like property or maybe for a car if that's something that you want to save for? What are the things that you're saving for? What are your habits? I liken your financial literacy to a number of things. Planning, the goals that you set, and the information that you have. People say that you need a financial advisor. I think it depends on where you are. But if you know yourself, it comes down to you again. Remember your honest self. If you know yourself and you're true to yourself, you know what your goals are, you know what your purpose is, and you're more efficient in terms of being motivated to getting what you need to get. When it comes to your savings, you need to save at least 5 to 10%. Okay, I don't want to say need because there are no rules in this, but it'd be good to save 5 to 10% of what you save and then work your way up. Right now, I'm matching between 40 to 50% of my earnings. That cheddar is coming in and I'm putting it away because I know what I want. So make sure you create wealth the right way. Are you investing in long-term stuff such as ETFs or index funds? Okay, easily done if you set up a trading 212 account. In addition to that, are you investing in property? You don't have to, but is that something you want to do? For me, I'm a firm believer that you should invest in yourself. And what do I mean? Invest in a business. Start a business, especially if you've got some skills that you've packaged in such a way where you're solving a specific problem. Every single business out there is trying to solve a specific problem. And the better you market yourself and the better you solve that problem, the more money you'll make. So think about it again. Wealth is not made by accident. The sixth thing is your health is all you've got, okay? Some of us wishing we got this sort of body, especially during lockdown. It's serious out here, trust me. It is serious. Your health is all you got. I've been burnt out twice. What does this mean? It means that I've overworked myself to the point where I didn't care about my health. You need to care about your health because all this money that you're trying to make, all this spiritual connection that you have with yourself and God and other people around you is down to the fact that your health is on point. That comes to your spiritual health. That comes to your mental health. That comes to your physical health. Are you making sure, and again, I know there are people on this chat that can educate you about this as well. Are you making sure that half your plate is greens? Or have you just put meat on there and chicken and fish and then you got beans? What are you doing? The black community needs to change, you know. We can do better. Are you making sure there's a routine with your exercise? I know I could do better with that, okay? Are you measuring the metrics when it comes down to your health? If you got a Samsung or if you got an iPhone, you can easily measure this stuff when it comes to your calories, the sleep hours that you're getting. You know, are you doing on average 7 hours or whatever it is? Make sure that you're being specific and intentional about your health. Again, be honest to yourself. What is your health saying? And again, we're going to break it down in a second. The last thing is people are the difference. They make the difference. I realized this so early. I'm so giving, okay? And I'm not saying this from a big-headed way. I'm saying this because I've received feedback. People have told me to be less giving because of the information that I give. But I can't help it. I just want to help us, man. I want us to win. And so with that in mind, you have to understand that you have to have appropriate people in your life. Appropriate. And you may say, Michael, what does it mean to have appropriate people in your life? It really means you need to have people who match your values or at least reach a certain threshold that reach your values. So I know for me, there are certain things that I have in terms of criteria for friendship. Now, I'm not saying I enforce this all the time, but I know proactive outreach is important. I know a good sense of ambition is important. I know empathy is important for me. I know a sense of banter and laughter is important for me. And there's a whole list of other stuff. So you need to know that people make the difference. You've heard this before. The 5 people that you're around really make up who you are, okay? And even your bank account. I'm not even talking about just friends and family members. I'm talking about mentors and coaches. Please, people, don't be cheap. Pay for a coach, pay for a mentor. And if you can't pay for a coach and mentor, okay, people who can raise your self-awareness, who can increase your choices, and also enable you to be self-responsible in order for you to enable creative insights for your life, then there are other options. What I did when I didn't have the money was I had an accountability buddy. Accountability buddies are so key for helping you really check yourself and understand where you need to go. So you meet with that person weekly or bi-weekly and you ask yourself questions and come to solutions and check yourself when you come back to it. Having a mastermind group of, let's say, 5 to 8 individuals you meet on a monthly basis is so inspirational. I just had my session yesterday. And I feel so invigorated. I'm so ready to go. And so I've created systems of people, whether it's friends, family members, accountability buddies, coaches, mentors, trainers, all of this kind of stuff where I cannot lose. Plus you have God on your side. Are you mad? No way. Stop it. This is too much for me. I'm telling you. Let's get on. Let's move on. So the next bit is this. I've covered those 7 sessions, but this is a very simplistic tool that I use. It's just the wheel of life, okay? And I talk to everybody about this. And so what I like to do is I use this as a check-in to understand where I'm at. So let's say, for example, we're focusing on wealth, okay? Which is the purple one on the right-hand side. Now, if my wealth is feeling like a 5 out of 10 in terms of level of satisfaction, then I need to think to myself, how do I get myself to an 8 or a 10? Can you see? Because if I know, for example, I don't check my finances, I'm not investing in, let's say, the S&P 500 in the index funds, or I'm not making money from my business, I know there are certain tangibles that I need to think about. So what do? You break down different objectives for wealth, okay? So number 1 for wealth, it could be start a business. Number 2, it could be invest in a specific stock. Number 3, check your finances on a regular basis. Then you need to break down the tasks, okay? Now this may not be done every week or whatever it is, but you may have to do this once, at least for the beginning of the year. For those of you who don't know, I make sure that at the beginning of the year, I calculate and I measure all of this stuff into my calendar so I know exactly what I'm doing. I remember a time when I was writing my books over 11 months when I thought I was going to do it in a month. And by the way, I did the majority of it on my phone. People wanted to meet with me and I said I can only do Thursdays. They were like, no, but I can only do Thursday too. I said to them, I'm gonna have to meet you in 3 months then because I got goals to achieve. You know, so you have to be serious, yeah? So make sure you do this satisfaction report. If you're a 5, how do you get to an 8? Look at your objectives, write down what tasks for all those objectives and attack it. Like I said to you at the beginning, I check my goals at the beginning of the day and usually at the end. I use a Trello board and I check those different things. Have I marked these things off? Because if you're not doing this, you're not being intentional and you're just waffling through life, okay? God gave us an opportunity, you know, but we have to prove that right. You know the parable of the talents. You have to prove that right. And there's no guarantee in this sense. You have to prove it. That's how you have to understand this. Because if you don't, then you're just going to be wasting people's time. There are people waiting for you, you know, to actually achieve things. And so don't waste your time or their time as well. And I know I'm coming to the end, but I want to summarize. Number 1, it's easier to be yourself. Remember, honest impact. I talk about this all the time. Honest impact. When you're honest to yourself, you make an impact. Number 2, master crawling before you can walk. Set those foundations straight. If it means you have to be in work first, do the work thing for a bit. Gain the experiences and then do things on the side for free. You'll start making money. Number 3, there is power in managing your emotions. Channel them and create intentions through the power of goals. And again, this is available on Amazon for those of you who want to check it out. Number 4, deep-rooted faith is the secret weapon. Get connected with God. Get connected with the higher spirit, because if you can't do that, you're failing already. Number 5, wealth is not made by accident. Learn the principles of finances. This is why part of our community is suffering. It's not because of all this other stuff. It's because we haven't got this stuff on check. Number 6, your health is all you've got. Take it seriously. And number 7, people make the difference. You need to do an audit on your friends. Maybe include your family members too, okay? Do you have a coach? Do you have a mentor? Do you have an accountability buddy? And do you have a mastermind group? It's serious, people, because this is your life. And that's it. That's Michael Tabirade in a nutshell. I hope you took some lessons from it. I've obviously got Instagram and LinkedIn. I'm going to be releasing a YouTube channel. So check out Michael Tabirade, subscribe, and you will start seeing things like this and many other stuff that can help you be more productive, live more on purpose, and enhance your performance. Thank you very much.